You could take my hand, and you could take my heart, and you could take my hand, and you could take my heart, and with you,
Hello everyone, welcome back to another weekly vlog. I have really bad allergies. That's something I seem to struggle with very much. There's days that are better than others, but today not so much. I just wanted to come in here. I actually recorded a video last week. The information is all over the place because it is a confusing topic just to talk about, and when I say that, it's in reference to what happened with the miscarriage at 9 weeks and 6 days. There's been things that have happened after the hospital. In this week, I didn't really record like a vlog every day, or didn't really record things that we were doing for this weekend either. It's just really getting back into that agenda, I guess. But I do want to fill you guys in because I got a lot of support. Both me and Lance had so much support from people that have watched the video and reached out to us and had encouraging words, even people who comment on the video. Thank you to each one of you. It really means a lot to know that you all cared enough to sit through that. I know that it's a lot of information, but even to comment on it, and even the messages that y'all sent privately, like, that does mean a lot, because it's not always easy to share experiences. I'm gonna jump into what happened last week. Last week I had my appointment on Tuesday, and they wanted me to go get checked a week after the miscarriage happened, just to see my blood levels and everything. They haven't even called me to tell me how they're looking. They haven't even called me because they told me they were still calling me whether they are going down or they're going up. Whatever the outcome was, they were gonna keep me on the loop, because the very first appointment I had with my OB, they drew blood out, they did the sonogram, they sent me to another clinic just to make sure how far along I was, and they were supposed to get back to me on that occasion, and they never did. I had to call to make sure the status of the baby, and so I don't like the way that they dealt with everything. But I had my appointment on Tuesday, a week after the miscarriage is when they scheduled it. I went in, I was waiting for the doctor to come into the room to see me and talk to me. And when she came in, the first thing she said, she verified my name. She's like, is this Fletcher? Is this your, she verified my name. I told her, yes, it's me. She verified like 3, 4, 5 times, and it was a little bit weird. I didn't understand why, but then, I'll let you know. So she verified, and she's like, okay, yes, you're the only patient that I had to go to the hospital last week in reference to having a miscarriage, but you did not have a miscarriage. And I'm looking at her very, very confused. I had no expression. I felt I had no expression because I didn't say anything. Nothing came out of my mouth. I was just in shock of what she was saying. And so she's like, yeah, you're Fletcher, right? I'm like, yeah, that's me. And so she's like, yeah, I can show you the reports. They didn't tell you you were having a miscarriage. They told you it was a threatened miscarriage. She told me that is absolutely different. That means you did not lose the baby. And out of her mouth, she said, you didn't lose the baby. And I looked at her and I said, they told me that I had a completed miscarriage. And then she just told me, no, it wasn't a completed miscarriage. It was a threatened miscarriage. I can't tell you what's happened from that time until now, but they sent me the report, they sent me the sonograms, they sent her everything that they did at the hospital. And she said, your baby, it wasn't gone. It's not gone. And she's like, I can show you the report where it says that he was still there, And I'm like, okay. And she walks back out. She goes and grabs her laptop, and she comes back in the room, and she's scrolling through the report She's like, your name, right? And she verifies again. I'm like, yeah, that's my name. That's my date of birth. And then she starts scrolling through and she's like, yeah, look right here. And then she pauses and she's like, wait, this has been modified. Why would they change it? It was just changed a few days ago. So then I look at her and I'm like, okay, so what's going on? And she pulls her laptop away at this point. And she's like, I pulled a report when we called you the next day after your hospital visit, and I called the hospital, we confirmed the outcome and we verified, and she just stopped. And then she started scrolling and looking at her laptop, super confused. And she's like, I'm not sure why they would update this to it actually saying that it was a miscarriage. But for us not to be confused, we have to do another sonogram besides the blood test. At that point, you know, she does a sonogram and she's asking me questions as far as like how, I know this might be again too much TMI, but she asked how much of the bleeding had occurred, and I told her I've never had like a flow. She wanted to know specifics, and then she's like, okay, so did you only have bleeding when you wiped? Or I did, but it was only like and she asked me about the color discharge, and it was never a bright red discharge as she was asking. And then she's like, it just sounds so confusing that you didn't have like a flow. It's like, if you had fresh blood, I mean, that means that, you know, you're disposing of it, and that would make sense as to why you would be having a miscarriage. So we're gonna check this out, because if your bleeding isn't even consistent to what it should have been, then, you know, we'll just check. We did a sonogram, and she's like, are you sure you had no bleeding? And I'm like, I'm sure. We, as described, this is what I had. And she's checking, and she's like, well, there is no baby. It seems like, you know, I don't know what might have happened from the time you went to hospital. What she doesn't know is that I had an app on my phone that did allow me to pick up the heartbeat from the baby. And when I left the hospital, when me and Lance left, we actually used the app. It just seemed like the way that the doctor was telling us we had lost a baby was just very like whatever, like it was not true. And with that app, we picked up a heartbeat, and I compared it to my heartbeat, and it was different. We were super confused ourselves without this experience happening. This was right after the hospital. So, my OB was asking me, you know, that it was just very confusing. She couldn't really explain it medically on how I didn't have the flow I was supposed to have through the miscarriage. And I did tell her, because Lance told me, you know, I've just been praying that you don't have the same pain that you've had in your previous miscarriages. I don't want you to go through that pain. And he's like, I've just been praying. And I'm like, and during that process, when Lance actually told me that, or the week that I was going through the miscarriage, I told him, it just feels weird though, like if I should be bleeding, because compared to my other miscarriages, it was very, very painful. And I don't know, like, it's just weird that my body hasn't gone through that pain yet. But when the doctor was checking my OB, she said that my cervix was already completely closed, and she said that she couldn't really explain it, and it just came out. And I let her know, hey, well, I don't know, my husband just said he was praying for me not to go through so much pain, because I've experienced this in the past. And she's just paused, and she's like, well, that completely explains it. He's a praying man. That's why I can't explain it as a doctor. But if you're telling me that he prayed over you, then this explains why you've not gone through the pain that you're supposed to go through as a miscarriage. You know, I didn't need that confirmation. I knew. I know that God has been through this whole situation. But when I left that office, I will be very honest that, you know, just the fact that the hospital might have confused the fact that I had a completed miscarriage versus a threatened miscarriage, and they verbally and in a report told my OB that the baby was still alive, that is something that I wish I would have known. And I told myself that when I was leaving, you know, I could have still talked to him a little bit more before he was really gone. I could have just prayed a little bit longer. I could have just really like embraced the moment that he was still alive, and maybe at that time he might have been passing, and I just don't know why we got that misinformation. And what happened, the result is still the same. He's still gone. But I went through the emotions all over again coming right out of that appointment. It was not easy, but know that we've heard so many stories of different people that have experienced something similar, and the result is really God is in control. And we don't understand fully why this happened, but we are trusting God. And I just wanted to really quickly update you guys on that. What I've taken from this experience is also the word of man means really nothing compared to what God can do and what God can say. This whole process, we just have learned to trust God and His word. Obviously, along with that, we're not going to be going to that same hospital. We're not going to be going to the same OB. I don't know what happened with them and their whole process, but next time around we are considering just going through another doctor, another hospital, and doing things differently. This next week, start to do a little bit more vlogging that I have been used to. Maybe I'll just sit and do some more talks like this. I'm just getting back into the rhythm of things, but again, I do appreciate all the support. Just gonna be coming on here and sharing my life and hope it actually blesses someone.